It had been a routine mission for Captain Alex Carter, a routine exploration of an uncharted planet, deep in the outer sectors of the galaxy. But nothing about this journey felt typical. The planet's atmosphere was dense, with strange swirling, clouds blocking most of the sunlight, leaving everything below cast in eerie shadows. Alex's ship, a sturdy but old exploration vessel, had been damaged in the planet's thick atmosphere. A malfunction in the landing gear sent him crashing into the unfamiliar terrain. The hum of his ship's engine sputtered out, and for a brief moment, all was silent. The ship came to a jerky stop, throwing Alex against his seat straps. His head spun from the impact, but he quickly regained his composure. The damage was bad. His ship wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Great, Alex muttered under his breath as he unbuckled his harness and stood up. He grabbed his helmet, checked his surroundings, and set out to survey the damage. The first priority was finding a way to contact his crew back at base. The planet was harsh, its atmosphere thick with unknown gases. A harsh wind whipped through the dense jungle outside his ship, causing trees to creak and bend. Alex's communication system was down, and his navigation sensors weren't any better. There was no clear way to call for help. But he had one thing that could give him a fighting chance. A basic survival kit which would be his lifeline. He stepped outside, the ground beneath his boots soft and uneven, a mix of moss and jagged rock. He squinted against the foggy air, trying to get his bearings. Through the mist, a shadow shifted ahead, drawing his attention. It wasn't a creature, though. It looked more like a figure, cloaked in a faint luminescence, moving gracefully through the trees. "Who's there?" Alex called, instinctively reaching for the blaster at his side. The figure stopped. For a long, tense moment, there was only the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves. Then, the figure stepped forward into the light. She was tall, with pale blue skin that shimmered under the mist, almost like she was made of light itself. Her eyes were wide, a striking silvery hue that seemed to look right through him. Long flowing hair framed her face, a soft silver that cascaded like a river. She was beautiful, in an alien way, her features delicate, almost ethereal, and her ears were shaped like those of an elf, small and pointed. Her attire was strange but elegant, made of some kind of fabric that seemed to shift colors with every step. Alex froze. He had never seen anything like her in all his years of service. An alien, perhaps, but she didn't seem threatening. "Who are you?" Alex asked, his voice softer now, less tense. "Where am I?" The alien woman tilted her head slightly, as if considering the question carefully. Her gaze never wavered from his. There was a strange intensity in her eyes, as though she knew him from somewhere, but the thought was fleeting. She took another step closer, her presence almost magnetic. Then, in a voice that was both soothing and unfamiliar, she spoke. "I miss you so much, my husband." Alex blinked, taken aback. Her words didn't make sense. He wasn't her husband. He had never met her in his life. The alien woman's words hung in the air, heavy with a sense of familiarity that Alex couldn't place. "I think you have the wrong person," Alex said, shaking his head. "I'm not your husband. I'm just an explorer stranded on your planet." She stepped closer still, her soft feet barely making a sound on the ground. "But you are," she whispered, almost as though she were speaking to herself. "You don't remember, but it's true. We've been apart for so long, but now we are reunited." Alex's heart raced. This wasn't making sense. How could she claim to know him, and why did she call him her husband? He was a human stranded on a foreign planet. There was no possible way that he could be connected to this alien woman, yet something in the air, something in the way she looked at him, made him feel like he had somehow known her forever. The sensation was unsettling. "What are you talking about?" Alex asked, his voice tightening. "How could we have known each other? I've never met you before. This is insane." The woman's eyes softened, a quiet sadness flickering across her features. She stepped closer, her hand extending as if reaching out to him. "I know you. I have always known you. My heart has waited for this moment. Alex recoiled slightly, unsure of what to think. Was this a trick? Was this some kind of strange encounter designed to manipulate him? His instincts told him to be cautious, to distrust the strange alien before him, but something inside him, the part that couldn't quite explain it, told him to listen. Look, Alex said, taking a step back. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not your husband. I need to find a way off this planet. If you know how to help me with that, then I'm all ears. But I can't. No, the alien woman interrupted gently, her voice barely above a whisper. You don't understand yet. This is not just about being stranded on a planet. This is about destiny. We have always been together, in another time, another place. But the universe kept us apart. Now, we are finally here, together, and I have waited so long for you. Alex stood still, processing her words, but the confusion in his mind only grew. Who was this woman, and why did she speak of a bond so deep and so old? There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Could it be possible? Could he have known her before? He had never believed in things like fate or destiny, but something about the way she looked at him, so certain, so sure, made him question everything. Before he could speak again, she took another step forward, closing the distance between them. Her voice trembled as she spoke again. I have missed you, my husband. I have waited for this moment. Alex's breath caught in his throat. This was only the beginning, he realized. Whatever happened next, his life was about to change in ways he couldn't yet understand. Alex stood there frozen, trying to make sense of everything. His mind raced as the words of the alien woman echoed in his ears. I have missed you, my husband. What could she mean by that? How could he be her husband? They were from different worlds. Literally. He had no memory of her, no understanding of what she was talking about. Yet, when he looked into her eyes, he felt an odd, almost magnetic pull. The woman's name was Saris, she had said. Her voice was soft, but there was a depth to it, a history woven through her words that Alex couldn't quite grasp. She wasn't aggressive, wasn't trying to harm him. If anything, she seemed to be yearning for something, or someone. I'm sorry, but I really don't know what you mean, Alex said, trying to keep his voice calm. I'm just a man stranded here. I have no idea who you are or how you know me. I've never met you before. Saris's expression softened, her eyes filled with an emotion that Alex couldn't identify. It was like a quiet sadness, mixed with hope. She took another step toward him, moving with a fluidity that almost seemed unnatural. It wasn't like the way a normal human moved. It was graceful, almost as if she was gliding through the air. You do not remember, Saris said, her voice tinged with regret. But we were once together. Not here, not in this life. In another time, another world, our souls were joined. She reached out a hand to him, her fingers barely brushing the air between them, as if afraid to touch him too soon. Alex hesitated but found himself captivated by her presence. He didn't understand what she was saying, but there was a strange pull in his chest, like something deep inside him was trying to wake up. I don't know what you're talking about, Alex repeated. His voice was steady, but his mind was anything but. This doesn't make sense. I'm just an explorer. I've never been married, certainly not to an alien woman. This has to be a mistake. Saris let out a long, soft breath as though trying to gather her thoughts. She lowered her hand and looked down at the ground for a moment, her face clouded with uncertainty. Then she looked up at him again, her gaze unwavering. Do you believe in fate, Alex? She asked softly. Do you believe that sometimes when two souls are meant to be together, the universe will find a way to reunite them no matter how far apart they may be? Alex opened his mouth to speak, but words failed him. Fate, souls, this was all too much. He wasn't a man who believed in destiny or cosmic forces. He was a scientist, a man of reason and logic. Yet there was something in Saris's words that stirred something within him. He had always been a man who trusted his instincts, and his instincts told him this wasn't some random encounter. "No," Alex finally said, shaking his head. "I don't know if I believe in fate, but I do know something strange is happening here. I'm feeling something. I don't know how to explain it, but I can't deny it either." Cirrus nodded slowly, as if she had expected that answer. A small smile tugged at the corners of her lips, but it was a sad smile, like she was resigned to the uncertainty of the situation. "I understand," she said. "You do not remember, not yet, but you will, in time. The bond we share is ancient. Alex, it is not just a chance meeting, it was destined." Alex's mind raced. The air between them seemed to hum with an energy that was almost palpable. He couldn't explain it, couldn't even comprehend it. But there was no denying the connection he felt to her. Something deep and old, like an echo of a memory long forgotten. "Why me?" Alex asked, his voice soft with confusion. "Why me? Why not someone else?" Cirrus's eyes softened, and she took another step closer, her presence almost overwhelming in its intensity. "Because you are my heart, Alex. In another life, we were partners, rulers of a kingdom that spanned galaxies. We were united, our hearts beating as one. But we were torn apart, and our souls were scattered. I have searched for you across the stars through countless lifetimes until the universe finally brought us together again." Alex's breath caught in his throat. Rulers? Galaxies? It was all too much to take in. He had come to this planet, looking for answers, but what he found was far more than he had ever expected. This can't be real," he muttered, his mind struggling to accept what Cirrus was saying. How could this be possible? Cirrus reached out, gently placing a hand on his chest. "It is real, Alex. Our connection is real. Our souls are tied together, bound by a bond that not even time can break." For a long moment, Alex stood there staring at her. He didn't know what to believe anymore. She spoke with such certainty, such conviction, that it was hard to dismiss her words as mere fantasy. The idea of being connected to someone from another life across galaxies and eons seemed impossible. And yet, here she was, standing before him, looking at him with the eyes of someone who had known him for 1,000 lifetimes. "I don't know what to say," Alex admitted, his voice filled with uncertainty. "But I can't deny that something strange is happening. I can feel it too. This connection." Cirrus smiled again, this time a more hopeful smile. "That is enough for now, Alex. You will understand soon. In time, all will be revealed. But for now, we must rest. There is much to learn, much to do." Alex nodded slowly, his mind still reeling from everything she had said. He didn't know what the future held, but he couldn't deny that his life had just changed in ways he couldn't yet understand. The only thing he knew for certain was that his journey had just begun. As Cirrus turned to lead him to a nearby shelter, Alex followed, his thoughts swirling. He had no idea what was ahead, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't alone anymore. The night on the strange planet was quiet, almost unnervingly so. As the stars twinkled in the distance, their light barely piercing through the thick clouds above, Alex sat beside Cirrus in the small shelter she had led him to. The walls of the shelter were made from smooth, metallic material, and it seemed to blend seamlessly with the environment outside, as though it had grown from the very land itself. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of something sweet, like flowers mixed with earth. There was a strange tranquility to the place, but it only added to the growing mystery that surrounded everything about this planet. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the edge of discovering something monumental, but his mind kept drifting back to one question. What was he supposed to do with all of this? Cirrus spoke of shared destinies, of past lives and cosmic bonds that stretched across the universe. But to him, it all seemed so unreal. He was a human, a simple explorer, who had accidentally crashed on a strange planet. There was no way he could be the long-lost husband of an alien woman. Yet the connection he felt when he was near her couldn't be ignored. It wasn't something he could easily explain away. He found himself drawn to her, not just by her words, but by something deeper, something more profound than mere attraction. It was as if their fates had been intertwined long before he had ever set foot on this planet. Saris watched him from across the shelter, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. She had said little since they entered the shelter, giving him space to think and process everything she had revealed. She seemed to sense his confusion, but she didn't push him. Her silence, though, spoke volumes, and Alex couldn't help but wonder what was going through her mind. "Why me?" Alex asked, breaking the silence. "Why did it have to be me, Saris? You keep saying we're connected, that we're supposed to be together. But I've never been here before. I've never even heard of your world until today." Saris looked at him, her face softening with understanding. She rose from her seat and walked over to him, her steps light, almost floating, as though she were one with the air around her. She sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders brushed, but she didn't touch him directly. Instead, she turned her gaze toward the outside, staring out at the darkness beyond the shelter. "We are not here by chance, Alex," she said softly. "This world, it is not a coincidence. It was always meant to bring us together. You and I are bound by something older than time itself, something that has been waiting for us to rediscover." Alex listened carefully, trying to understand her words. He didn't know what to think, but part of him wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that there was more to this world than just strange clouds and hidden ruins. He wanted to believe that somehow their meeting wasn't just an accident. "This world?" Alex repeated, looking around. "What do you mean by that? This planet seems so isolated, so empty. How could it possibly hold any kind of significance?" Saris smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "This planet is not empty, Alex. It is ancient, long before your kind ever set foot in the stars. This world was a place of great importance, home to a civilization that spanned galaxies. It was a place where many souls were united, where bonds like ours were not rare. But then, something happened. The universe changed. The civilizations we built fell apart. The bond we shared was broken." Her words echoed in the stillness, filling the shelter with a sense of quiet reverence. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The idea of a galaxy-spanning civilization seemed impossible, but Saris spoke of it as if it were a distant memory, one that she held on to, even after so many cons. "But how?" Alex asked, his voice thick with disbelief. "How could something like that happen, and why would I be brought here?" Saris looked at him with an intensity that made his heart race. "Because, Alex, we are not just here to learn about the past. We are here to restore what was lost. We are here to rebuild what once was. The connection we share is not just between two people. It is between entire worlds. If we are to succeed, we must first understand the truth of who we are, who we were." The weight of her words hit him like a wave. This wasn't just about survival on a strange planet anymore. This was about something much bigger, something that could change everything. "But how do we do that?" Alex asked. "How do we rebuild something we can barely understand?" Saris stood up and walked to the center of the shelter. She raised her arms, her eyes closing as though she were connecting to something far beyond the walls around them. Alex watched in awe as the air around her seemed to shimmer, the faintest light emanating from her body. Slowly she lowered her arms and opened her eyes, her gaze fixed on him. "The first step is trust," she said simply. "You must trust in the bond we share. You must trust in the journey we are about to take." Alex didn't speak right away. His mind was still reeling, but as he looked at Saris, something deep inside him shifted. He didn't know what the future held. He didn't know if he could truly believe everything she had said. But one thing was clear. His journey had taken a turn he could never have imagined. He nodded slowly, his resolve hardening. "All right, I'm with you." Saris's face softened, and for the first time since they met, She smiled, truly smiled. The kind of smile that made Alex feel like, despite everything, everything might just be okay. We begin tomorrow, she said, turning toward the door of the shelter. There is much to learn and much to discover, but together we will unlock the truth of our past and our future. As she stepped outside, Alex followed. The night air was cool and crisp, and the stars seemed to burn brighter now, as though they were watching over them. Whatever lay ahead, Alex knew he wasn't facing it alone. The morning arrived quietly, with the first light of the planet's twin suns filtering through the dense canopy of the alien forest. Alex sat on a rock outside the shelter, his mind still, heavy with questions. But something had shifted inside him. He had agreed to go on this journey with Saris, to trust in the bond they shared, even though it felt like stepping into the unknown. They were no longer just two strangers on an alien planet. There was something more, something ancient that tied them together. Saris stepped out from the shelter, her presence as graceful and serene as ever. Her pale blue skin shimmered in the sunlight, and her silver hair seemed to move as though it were alive. Despite the calm exterior, there was an intensity in her eyes that Alex couldn't ignore. "We need to go," Saris said, her voice soft, yet filled with a sense of urgency. "The time has come to face the truth." Alex nodded, standing up and stretching his arms. The air on this planet had an almost weightless quality to it, making every movement feel slower, more deliberate. Saris led him deeper into the forest where the trees were unlike anything he had ever seen. Their trunks were twisted and gnarled, their branches reaching toward the sky in odd, angular shapes. The leaves were a mixture of glowing blue and green, casting an eerie light on the ground below. As they walked, Saris spoke of the past, of the great civilization her Opal once ruled, of the bond between their souls that had once been revered. But Alex began to sense that there was more to this story. Something had happened to bring it all crashing down. Something that had torn their world apart. "Saris," Alex said, his voice breaking through the quiet of the forest. "You keep mentioning this great civilization and the bond we shared, but you've never explained why it all fell apart. Why is the world we're on now so different from what you're describing?" Saris paused for a moment, her eyes distant as though she were looking through time itself. "It was the enemy," she said quietly. "An ancient force that sought to break the bond we shared. They knew that our connection was powerful, that our souls united could not be stopped. So they destroyed everything, our cities, our people, and the very fabric of our bond." Alex felt a chill run down his spine as her words sank in. The idea of an enemy so powerful that they could destroy entire civilizations was terrifying. He couldn't imagine a force like that existing, let alone one that had targeted Saris's people in their sacred bond. "Who were they?" Alex asked, his curiosity growing. "And why would they want to destroy something like this? Why not just leave you alone?" "They feared us," Saris replied, her voice tinged with sorrow. "They feared the power of our connection. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered. A bond between two souls that could not be broken by time or space. The enemy was not just a physical force, but a corrupting influence that sought to control everything, including love itself." Alex's mind raced. This enemy, whoever they were, had not only destroyed a civilization, but had tried to erase something as pure as love itself. It was a concept so far beyond his understanding that he almost didn't know how to process it. But there was one thing that was becoming clear. This wasn't just about surviving on an alien planet. This was about something much larger, something that could affect the fate of more than just their two lives. "So, if this enemy destroyed your world, how did you survive?" Alex asked. "How did you end up here?" Saris looked up at him, her eyes filled with both pain and determination. "I was the last to survive, the last of my kind. The bond that kept us together was broken, scattered across the universe, and I've spent centuries searching for the pieces. For you, for me, for us." Alex's heart ached as he heard her words. He had never known what it was like to lose everything, to watch a civilization crumble, but he could feel her pain. the weight of all the years she had spent alone searching for a way to restore what was lost. But why now? Why me? Alex asked, his voice soft. Why bring me here, after all this time? Ceres's gaze never wavered from him. Because, Alex, you are the final piece. You are the one who can restore the bond. You are the key to bringing us back together, to rebuilding everything that was destroyed. A deep silence settled between them as the gravity of her words sank in. Alex felt a sudden rush of uncertainty. Could he really be the key? Could he truly play a part in something as grand and significant as the rebirth of an entire civilization? He was just a man, stranded on an alien world. The thought of being the central figure in something so important seemed too much to bear. We're not ready for this, Alex said, shaking his head. I don't even know how to begin. This is beyond anything I've ever been trained for. How can we restore something that was destroyed so long ago? Ceres stepped closer to him, placing her hand gently on his arm. We don't have to have all the answers, Alex. We only need to trust in the bond we share. Together we can rebuild. But we must face the enemy first, the one who destroyed everything. Alex looked at her, feeling both overwhelmed and strangely calm. There was a part of him that knew Ceres was right. He didn't have all the answers, but maybe that wasn't the point. The point was that they were together now, and together they could face whatever came next. You're right, Alex said, a new determination in his voice. I don't know how we'll do it, but I'm with you. We'll face whatever comes together. Ceres smiled, the faintest hint of hope shining in her eyes. Then we begin our journey, Alex. The enemy is near, and they will stop at nothing to prevent us from succeeding. As they moved deeper into the forest, the weight of the future hung heavy in the air. But for the first time since his crash, Alex felt like he was part of something much bigger than himself. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't facing it alone. The day had grown warmer as Alex and Ceres ventured deeper into the heart of the alien forest. The air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flowers, and the strange sounds of creatures echoing through the trees added to the sense of isolation. Yet, despite the unfamiliar environment, Alex felt a sense of calm in Ceres's presence. The bond between them was undeniable. He didn't fully understand it, but there was a part of him that knew it was real. They had been traveling for hours, making their way through dense underbrush and over streams that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Alex's legs were sore from the trek, but he didn't complain. He couldn't. Every step he took, every breath he drew, felt more and more like he was walking into something that was meant to happen. The path ahead seemed unclear, but Ceres's unwavering confidence kept him moving forward. They had reached the edge of a clearing, and in the distance Alex could see a large structure emerging from the trees. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, tall, angular, and built from a material that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it. The air around it felt charged, as if the building itself was alive, pulsating with energy. Ceres stopped in her tracks and turned to Alex. This is where we begin, she said softly. Inside you will understand everything. Alex felt his heart rate quicken. They had reached the place Ceres had mentioned, the place where he would finally learn the truth about their connection, about the bond that had brought them together. But with that truth came a new set of questions. Could he truly accept everything that Ceres had said? Could he believe that they were destined to restore an ancient civilization, to rebuild what had been lost? And most importantly, could he trust in the bond between them, the one that Ceres had so firmly placed her faith in? As they approached the entrance, Alex's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He had always prided himself on being logical, on relying on reason and evidence. But what Ceres spoke of, this bond, this ancient connection, was not something that could be explained away by science. It was something deeper, something beyond his understanding. And now, as they stood before the mysterious structure, Alex had to face the ultimate test: trust. Are you ready? Ceres asked, her voice soft but filled with conviction. Alex hesitated for only a moment before nodding. I'm ready. With a gentle touch, Saris placed her hand on the surface of the structure, and the massive doors began to open slowly, as if acknowledging their presence. The interior was just as strange as the outside. The walls seemed to shimmer with light, casting shadows that danced across the floor in mesmerizing patterns. There were symbols carved into the walls, symbols that Alex didn't recognize but somehow felt drawn to. They seemed to pulse with a rhythm, as if the building itself was alive. As they walked deeper into the structure, Alex could feel the atmosphere shifting. It was as if the very air around them was charged with energy. The further they went, the stronger the sensation became, until Alex could almost feel it in his bones. It was the same feeling he had gotten when he first met Saris. This sense of being connected to something much greater than himself. But now it was stronger, more tangible. He couldn't ignore it. They reached the center of the building, and in the middle of the room stood a pedestal, bathed in soft, ethereal light. On it rested a large crystalline object, its surface smooth and reflective. The object pulsed with an inner light, and as Alex drew closer, he felt an overwhelming sense of recognition. It was as if he had seen it before, in a dream or a vision. The object seemed familiar, almost like it was calling to him. "This is the key," Saris said, her voice barely a whisper. "The bond between us, the one that connects our souls, is contained within this crystal. It is the heart of everything." Alex stared at the crystal, a deep sense of awe filling him. It was beautiful, glowing softly with an energy that felt both ancient and timeless. And yet, as he looked at it, he felt a pang of fear. What if he couldn't unlock its power? What if he wasn't the key Saris believed him to be, and memories of a time long ago, of a place he had never been, yet somehow felt like home? He saw vast cities made of shimmering light, stretching out beneath towering spires. He saw people, not humans, but beings of incredible beauty, their skin glowing with soft hues, their eyes filled with the wisdom of the ages. In these memories, Alex wasn't himself. He was someone else, someone who had lived centuries ago. His mind raced to make sense of it. He was not just a man who had crash-landed on an alien planet. He was a part of something far older, something that had spanned galaxies. And in these memories he saw Saris, not as the woman standing beside him now, but as someone he had loved and known deeply, in a past life. She was his equal, his partner, the one person who had always been by his side. The memories continued to flood him, images of battles fought to protect their people, of moments shared in the quiet serenity of their world. But there was also darkness lurking in the shadows of their civilization's downfall. He saw the enemy, the force that had destroyed their world and shattered their bond. They were relentless, powerful, and they had torn everything apart. The images were fleeting but clear, and at the center of it all, Alex and Saris had stood together, not just as rulers but as a symbol of hope for their people. Together, they had been What happened to them? Why did they want to destroy everything? They still exist, Saris said, her voice hardening. The enemy was not defeated. They are scattered throughout the universe, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Their goal was never just to destroy us. It was to control the bond we shared, to use its power for their own ends. Alex felt a chill run through him. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. The enemy was still out there, still a threat to not just him and Saris, but to everything they had once built. The future of their civilization, their people, and the galaxy was hanging in the balance. "We need to stop them," Alex said, his voice firm now. "We can't let them win again. We can't let them destroy everything." Saris nodded, a fierce determination lighting up her eyes. "We will stop them. Together." The air around them seemed to shift again, as if the very universe itself had heard their words. The crystal before them flickered once more, and the entire room seemed to pulse with energy. Alex felt a surge of power, not just from the crystal, but from within himself. The memories had awakened something inside him, something ancient, something that had always been a part of him, You were right, Saris, Alex said, his voice steady now. I am a part of this. I'm not just some lost human. I'm part of something much bigger, and I'll stand by your side. We'll face the enemy together. Saris smiled, a smile filled with both love and pride. I knew you would understand, Alex. Together we can rebuild what was lost. Together we can restore the balance. As they stood there in the heart of the ancient building, surrounded by the power of the crystal and the weight of their past, Alex knew that this was only the beginning. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with challenges and obstacles that would test them both. But he was ready. He had finally embraced his true destiny, the fate of their people, of their love, and of the entire galaxy rested in their hands. And for the first time, Alex knew that no matter what happened, they would face it together. The sky above was darkening as Alex and Sarah stood on the edge of the clearing, staring at the distant horizon. The path ahead of them was uncertain, but the journey they had begun was no longer a choice. It was a destiny that had already been set in motion. With the power of the ancient crystal now awakened, they both felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. The enemy Saris had spoken of, an ancient force bent on control, was still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike again. But Alex was no longer afraid. He knew now that his life had always been tied to something greater. We're ready, Alex said, his voice filled with determination. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Saris looked at him, her eyes glowing with a soft light. There was something in her gaze that spoke of centuries of longing, of a bond that had never been broken despite the vast expanse of time. She had waited so long for this moment, for their souls to be reunited, and now, finally, everything that had been lost was beginning to come back into focus. Yes, she replied quietly. Together. The air around them seemed to hum, as if it recognized their connection. The bond between them, one that spanned lifetimes, was growing stronger with every passing moment. As the final remnants of daylight faded, a new energy began to build between them, a force that had been dormant for centuries but was now awake and powerful. Saris held out her hand to him, and Alex took it without hesitation. Her skin, cool and smooth, felt like the touch of someone he had always known, even though they had just met in this life. The connection they shared was so deep that words couldn't express it. It was more than love, more than partnership. It was a union of souls, a link that had never truly been broken. Where do we go from here? Alex asked, his voice filled with quiet curiosity. Saris turned to face the path ahead, her expression calm and focused. We go to the place where it all began, she said softly. We must find the enemy before they find us. Only then can we truly restore what was lost. Alex nodded, a sense of purpose settling over him. They had uncovered the truth of their past, and now they had to ensure that their future would be one of hope and rebuilding, not destruction. The ancient enemy that had destroyed everything they had once known was still out there. They had to stop them before it was too late. As they walked through the dense forest, the world around them seemed to grow still. The once chaotic and frightening landscape had transformed, becoming quiet and almost serene. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their twisted branches forming an archway overhead. It was as if the planet itself was guiding them forward, helping them find the path they needed to take. We must be close, Saris said, her voice tinged with a sense of urgency. The enemy is near. Alex felt the air shift, the weight of her words sinking in. He didn't know exactly what kind of enemy they were facing, but everything in him told him that they weren't just fighting for their own lives. They were fighting for the very essence of who they were, for everything they had once been. This battle wasn't just physical. It was a battle for their souls, for the love that had once been torn apart and was now being pieced back together. They reached the edge of a cliff, and in the distance, Alex could see a dark shape looming in the shadows. It was a massive structure, its twisted, jagged form standing against the sky like some dark monument to their enemies. It was clear that this was no ordinary building. It was ancient, like everything else on the planet, but it carried a menacing energy that made the hairs on the back of Alex's neck stand up. "This is it," Saris whispered, her hand tightening around his. "This is where they are hiding." Alex looked at the structure, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't know what they would find inside, but he knew that this was the moment they had been waiting for. They had the power to restore their bond, to rebuild what had been destroyed. But first, they had to face the darkness that still threatened to consume them. Saris stepped forward, leading the way. Her confidence was unwavering, but Alex could see the weight of her past in the way she carried herself. This wasn't just a fight for the future. It was a fight for everything she had lost, everything they had both lost. They approached the entrance of the structure, a massive archway that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. As they crossed the Mei threshold, the temperature dropped and a chill ran through Alex's body. The walls of the structure were covered in strange, shifting symbols, and the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. It was clear that this place had been designed for one purpose: to hide the enemy, to shield them from the light. Inside, they found a vast chamber, its ceiling towering high above them. At the center of the room stood a figure, cloaked in shadow. The figure was not human, but something far older, far more powerful. Its eyes glowed with a sickly green light, and Alex could feel its presence before it even spoke. "You've come for the crystal," the figure said, its voice low and resonant, echoing through the chamber. "But you cannot have it. Not while I still live." Sarah stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the figure. "You have no power over us anymore," she said, her voice filled with authority. "We are no longer the same people you once destroyed. We are stronger now, united." The figure laughed, a chilling sound that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. "You think you can defeat me?" it hissed. "You think you can reclaim what was lost? You are fools. This is where it all ends." The room seemed to pulse with energy as the figure raised its hand, summoning a dark force that filled the air with tension. Alex felt the power of the crystal within him, the strength of the bond he shared with Saris, and he knew that this was the moment. The enemy could no longer control them. "Together," Saris said, her voice steady and strong. "We will end this." Alex nodded, his heart steady. With the strength of their bond, they were no longer two individuals. They were one, united in purpose, in love, and in their mission to restore what had been lost. As the enemy moved toward them, Alex and Saris stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next. The battle would be fierce, but they knew one thing. Their love was stronger than anything the enemy could throw at them. Together they would overcome it all,